Batten down the hatches and take the helm. It's time for adventure, seaside headlines, and a splash of mischief. Welcome to Marine Conservation Happy Hour, where coastal news meets pirate spirit, and every story comes with a twist. And now, your host, Dr. Scarlet Smash and Dr. Craken McCracken.
This is the Marine Conservation Happy Hour. I'm Dr. Scarlet Smash, and this is Dr. Craken, and we are your local Florida swashbucklers, bringing you Florida ocean and bay news topics, pirate stories, and shenanigans. Grab your drink and come on board. Welcome back, everyone. We are talking about pirates today, and that's because, well, we're the Buccaneers, and if we live in Florida, we have to know as much pirate history as possible. So we have an incredible segment teaching you about a new pirate you might not know of.
In fact, the most successful pirate ever.
This is true. But when we think of pirates here in Florida, where our eyes and our thoughts literally drift to the seas around us, the Caribbean, Mexico. However, there were pirates all around the world, and we need to start thinking beyond the pirates of the Caribbean. For centuries, all around the world, there were ships always coming in and out, trading lots of goods, and cargo was always stolen by pirates. Now that we've understand that we have to go beyond the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean, I'm going to take us all the way over to China. Yes, that is correct. We're going to the 19th century. So picture this. It is the year 1807. We are in South China Seas. We are on a wooden ship, creaking, swaying back and forth. There's merchant vessels. There's even ships around us that have restaurants, floating restaurants. There's even floating brothels. That's correct. There's merchant vessels all over the place with spices and silks and gold and porcelain. Looking over beyond the horizon, what is that? What do I see? Is that a storm beyond the horizon? Well, there looks to be one flag that's starting to appear, and it's red. There's one, there's two, there's dozens of ships coming at you. And if you peer with your binoculars and you're looking out to see who's in command of that fleet, well, you will find a very sturdy, strong, brave, and composed woman. Her name was Ching Shih, and she commanded the largest pirate fleet in the world ever seen. Now, we need to remember this kind of pirate living was very different from the Caribbean than we're used to. The difference is that we had wild port towns like Port Royal, Nassau, Tortuga, where all the pirates would come inland and they would go to taverns, gamble. There would be brothels, trading docks, merchants, vendors, and bars.
It sounds very much like Ybor City, really.
Pretty much, exactly. And interesting enough, Port Royal, which was one of the establishments that people would come to, was technically called the wickedest city on earth back then. So that was where everyone would come into town. Now, when we're talking about Ching Shih in China, this is going to be the coastline of Canton and Pearl River Delta. They were famous floating establishments called flower boats. So a lot of these boats look beautiful. They almost look like floating houses. Yeah, with lanterns, silk curtains, there would be music and food, and everything would be beautifully decorated. And so imagine the entire, like a floating city that would be around these shipping lanes that you would dock right next to, and then you would jump onto their boat and you would enjoy their restaurant or brothel or entertainment houses. And a lot was being interchanged in communication there because a lot of people were drunk and speaking to a lot of the people that work on those ships.
Again, it's like Ybor City.
Exactly. It's like Ybor City.
Get a lot of gossip.
So these were very important around shipping routes for cargo. A lot of political news was being shared. There was a lot of pirate activity, of course, and all this was happening around the 18th, 19th century in Canton,
which is now known as Hong Kong and Macau.
Hong Kong. Now that we've set the scene, let's introduce you to Ching Shih.
Or, in fact, her real name was Shi Yang. And a lot of people refer to her as Zhong Yi Shao, which I really don't like because it basically means wife of Zhong Yi, her husband. And she was born in 1775 on one of these flower boats, basically a floating entertainment house, brothel. She was really, really beautiful.
You say brothel, that she might have been working for a brothel, which is some recordings, but some historians think that she was actually on a fisherman's merchant floating boat.
Oh, so more like a store, a floating store.
Yes, a floating store, because they assume she was poor, but she was incredibly smart because she was around a lot of people that were coming onto the boats, either brothel or a fisherman's store. We don't know really the actual truth, but she became very smart because she was talking to different people in all walks of the world, and she was able to gather a whole bunch of information. Apparently, we also don't know what she looked like. There's not many records of what she was like. But
apart from she was beautiful.
Well, they don't even really know that. They can't. I mean, we think that she was beautiful with dark hair, beautiful eyes. But we really don't know. There's no true record of that. People do say that she was a very composed individual. She was very calm. She was insightful. So she actually read people very quickly. And that is probably how she met and caught the eye of her husband.
So her husband, Zheng Yi, was the captain, the commodore of the Red Flag Fleet.
And she met him on one of her boats.
And he had about 200 ships when he met her and married her. And part of the marriage deal was that she got 50% of the boats, and she was the joint commander. Well, effectively joint commander. He technically was the captain of it all, but that was part of the deal. She got 50-50, and they very quickly went from about 200 boats to over 1,800 boats, with the two of them working together.
With those red flags.
Let the red flags fly.
Yes, let the red flags fly. I never realized that that's where the red pirate flag comes from.
The Jolly Rouge, or what we would call the Jolly Roger. That if you saw that, it meant that no quarter was going to be given. Although, actually, she introduced eventually kind of like an anti-pirate insurance that you could pay a fee and you would get a piece of paper saying, please don't pirate me. So you could actually get anti-pirate insurance which sort of saved them having to go out and actually capture boats. You just go, I got my paperwork here. I've already paid my anti-pirate fee.
Brilliant.
And they would just sail on.
Brilliant.
She got to a stage she didn't actually really have to capture one anymore. She basically just charged them all a pirate tax.
Oh.
Now, she and her husband adopted, now this is where it gets kind of a bit strange. They adopted a fisherman's son called Chung Po from one of the nearby fishing towns who was in his 20s. Now, she was only 26 when she got married, and her husband was not that much older than her, about 35. And so they adopted a 20-something-year-old lad who became second in command of the fleet. And just in 1807, just a couple of years after she had got married, her husband died at the age of 42. And 2 weeks later, she married her adopted son.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Now, did she do that because of power to make sure that he wouldn't try to take over?
Well, it's kind of hard to maybe she needed a male person to be sort of the head of the business, even though that she was pretty much
the captain.
Everything.
She was completely running everything.
He clearly was a good pirate in his own right because he was second in command of the fleet. So he was a really, really good captain. But I like the idea of he's like the figurehead, but she really is the person who is running everything. And by 1809, they estimated that they had 80,000 pirates in their fleet, the largest pirate fleet ever.
That is insane. I mean, just imagine it when you're coming up against that many ships.
Oh,
I would be like, ooh, it's about to be a bad day. Here she comes.
You know what? It gets even better. I'll tell you what happened when she attracted the attention of the Emperor of China.
Well, we'll definitely do that when we come back from this short break.
All hands on deck, raise a glass, and ready the crew. Now, back to Marine Conservation Happy Hour. Bold, briny, and just a bit rebellious. Now, your host, Dr. Scarlet Smash and Dr. Kraken McCracken.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to be talking about Ching Shih. Welcome back, everyone. To understand how Ching Shih rose to power, we have to travel back to the bustling coast of Canton around the year 1800. And Canton, which is also known as
Hong Kong and Macau on the other side of the Pearl River,
right, was actually a very, and actually the busiest trading port in the world. Ships were coming from Europe, Asia, everywhere across China, coming to that really very active, dense, popular harbor. There were merchants, fishing vessels,
massive trading ships.
And
British,
floating
the
houses,
Portuguese.
even floating brothels, floating restaurants. I mean, it was just very, very busy. And this is where Ching Shih was popular and flew her red flags high. So now that we've established that this is basically could be the greatest nightlife in the world with silks and
spices and wine and things from all around the world.
Pirates drunk and spilling their beans and lots of information and cargo routes revealing all of their secrets over rice wine.
And the pirate queen collecting all this
the
information, collecting her books, working out the blackmail, working out the trading routes.
Got herself a husband. He
Got
died.
herself another husband.
Got another husband.
Who was her son.
Built her fleet to 80,000 pirates and 1,200 ships.
Oh, and in fact, more than 1,200 ships in the end. In fact, it got even bigger because the Emperor of China decided that she was a threat because she was basically ruling the whole, south coast.
Oh, you're absolutely
of China.
Right. Like,
and
not even Europe could fight her.
Oh,
Europe couldn't fight her. Any of Asia could not fight her. She was winning every battle.
Was winning everything. And so he tried to deal with her. He sent off the Chinese Navy to attack her. However, she won. And not only did she win, she told the naval officers and the naval vessels, if you join, why don't you join me? And a whole bunch of them did. They switched from the Chinese Navy.
You mean making it even bigger? Making
the red flag
fleet even bigger. Oh my God.
Making it even larger. So in about 1810, the Emperor of China said, I give up, and offered amnesty and pardons to the fleet.
So she must have negotiated something.
Oh, she did. In fact, when she negotiated, she was really, really suspicious that she actually came into a negotiation surrounded by women.
Say what?
To basically act as kind of a human shield, because she thought, oh yeah, they're just going to have people waiting behind the curtains with guns. They're going to shoot me. They're going to murder me. So they had a whole bunch of women and children surrounding her, with her in the middle. She made the deal, signed the paperwork, got her amnesty and pardon for her and her crew. A whole bunch of her crew, including her husband, were offered official government jobs. And her husband actually became the captain of the sort of southern fleet. So the emperor basically said, okay, we'll just make you the admiral of the southern fleet. to her husband. She retired. She got a vast amount of money, and a lot of her crew ended up getting government jobs. In fact, she ended up getting a kind of a government job where she was involved in managing money and banking, because she basically had her own banks.
Because she was so wealthy.
She was so wealthy. She bought up a gambling house in Macau, and she retired at the ripe old age of 35, being one of the richest women in China. She had a son in 1813. She had a daughter soon afterwards. Unfortunately, her husband, who was the admiral of the Southern Fleet, died in 1822, but she ended up living to the ripe old age of 69, having built up this sort of gambling empire, lost it, built it up again.
That's hilarious. Okay, so she walks away from piracy. And then it's actually kind of funny that she goes from piracy to gambling. I almost feel like that's a perfect kind of career to go into as a pirate. She basically
kind of sort of helped set up the sort of Las Vegas of China.
Exactly.
In fact, Macau now is kind of like the gambling capital of southern China. And a lot of her descendants are involved, big businesses in Macau who got their start because of their grandmother, who was this pirate queen. So she just ended up dying at the ripe old age of 69 with lots and lots of sick loots and
basically the only pirate that leaves the sea undefeated, basically.
Well, actually, there were a couple who did do the same sort of thing. That it was pretty rare, but a couple of them did retire and end up actually having quite lucrative businesses. And in fact, there's one of my favorite pirates in the Caribbean called Red Legs Greaves, who was a Scotsman. he used to wear a kilt all the time, got sunburnt legs. He ended up retiring, becoming like the mayor of the island he retired to, set up schools and orphanages, and became like a philanthropist in his old
Oh.
age. So there were a few pirates who did sort of do well, retired, and then became pillars of the community.
Well, she's incredible. Well, I mean, both of them are pretty much incredible. I love all pirate stories, but you know what? Also, I really enjoy the most is everyone's different pirate code, and she had a really interesting pirate code that she created. One of her rules, she was incredibly disciplined and made sure that everyone else was incredibly disciplined on the boats in the fleet. And she didn't take any baloney, that's for sure. I gotta make
No,
sure I don't.
absolutely not.
Yes, exactly. She had very strict codes. All the loot, all the booty, everything that's stolen must be registered. Can you imagine that? Like,
She
literally,
took accounts.
yeah.
I told you she basically
She's
ran
an
banks.
accountant. Yeah,
Yeah, she was a banker.
she was. All the profits have to be shared. They must be shared. Ooh, anyone that disobeyed was immediately punished. I mean, we're not talking about maybe 2 days later. It was like immediate. Okay. Rules are absolute. So anything she decided that was going to happen or needed to happen, do not even argue with her. Don't even
No
try to go
argument.
in the gray line. No, nothing like that.
Don't try to hold anything back or, embezzle. Boom, you're
Gone.
dead.
You're
Gone.
gone. Yes, you were executed. That's basically what he means by boom. You were executed. She killed you. Okay. And the other
But-
thing is that if they did take women, like
Mhm.
if they captured a boat and they did take women onto their fleet, no man was allowed to hurt them or do anything abusive to them, or they would be
Boom.
boom. Executed.
Women were they were allowed to marry members of the pirate crew, but they had to grant their consent, and it had to be very clear that they were not being bullied or being enforced into a marriage.
How would they do that? Do you think they'd have a conversation?
Yeah, because they have a conversation. Hey, are you being forced? No, I really do love him. No, he's forcing me to. Right, I'll throw him over the sides of the sharks.
Which she did.
She did. She did. Also, the pirates, if they were married, they had to be faithful to their wives. She did not allow her pirates to cheat on their wives. And most of the women who were captured were basically just allowed to go free. They were offered jobs if they wanted to in the pirate fleet, or, as I said, if they fancied a pirate on the crew, they were allowed to marry them, but they had to consent. But the male pirates, if they cheated, boom, they were in trouble. So yeah, she had one of the strictest pirate codes. And as we said, she was like one of the most famous, effective pirates ever. But we hardly ever hear about her. Although today she is starting to appear in popular media because she did appear in Pirates of the Caribbean 3.
I
think
that.
it was.
I thought so.
They get the timing a bit wrong, I think, because she would actually I think she's portrayed as an old woman, or there's a pirate queen who they visit, but actually she was still relatively young then. I think she would have been about time of Johnny Depp, she would have been about 40 years old, but retired because she, as I said, she retired in 1810. She appears in Doctor Who. She meets some aliens in Doctor Who, and there's a bunch of other shows where she appears as well. So people are starting to recognize this famous pirate queen, but really she needs her own movie for sure.
Oh, I agree. Or a series.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Something like Game of Thrones, And even after she's retired, all the politics she's involved with, all the skullduggery, and she becomes this multi-millionaire underworld leader, gambling leader. There's so much that could be done about her. And yet no one really has yet. So
well, the age of pirates definitely eventually faded. The Navy grew stronger and basically took over.
yeah.
And trade routes now have become protected. But the story of a wonderful legend and story of the commander, the pirate queen. And we will see you next week. If you like our shenanigans, please follow us on social media, Dr. Scarlet Smash, Dr. Kraken. And if you want to share some of our great shenanigans, then find our podcast, The Marine Conservation Happy Hour.